Let's talk about crops. That's always interesting.
Yeah.
So, also in vertical farming, in greenhouses and soilless production, we also talk about crop quality and safety.
Yeah.
But there is a preoccupation. People are a bit skeptic about hydroponic crops. Tomatoes, for example, people tend to believe that tomatoes that come from soilless cultures are tasteless. Why is that? Is it a myth? Is it something else behind it?
That's a myth. I would say, but I cannot. Let's say, if you grow on soilless culture, I can grow a much better quality than in the soil. But I could also do it the other way around. I can also grow less quality, because with the soilless culture, if you take tomato as the example, that's a crop where the taste can so much controlled. It starts with the variety. So what variety do you use? Because there are some varieties who have a relatively poor taste and others which have a very nice taste. But then on top of that, it depends on all the growth conditions. So it also depends definitely on the light, and it depends on the temperature, but also on the root system. And with tomato, it is very easy. By changing the total concentration of the nutrients, you can get a better quality or not. But what happens, the most simple way I could say, well, you raise the total concentration of the nutrients, or you increase sodium chloride, the taste goes up, and in fact the taste goes mainly up because there is less water in the fruit. If there is less water in the fruit, you lose a few kilograms. So it is a balance between yield and taste. And then as a grower, you have a choice. You can choose the cultivar, you can choose how you give the water and the nutrients, and then you can choose whether to maximize the yield with a few more kilograms, or that you want to maximize, or let's say optimize, the quality. But it has been proven already many times that we can get a better quality, but you have to take the right actions or choices, and it is all known how to do that. But apart from this, what I say is, well, it has been proven, let's say, in blind tests where people, or where analytical measurements of the quality, but also in tests with people, with test panels. If people think that grown in the field, in the soil, tastes better than from a greenhouse or from hydroponic soilless culture, and you say, well, this tomato, you give them same tomatoes, you tell them this is coming from this origin and that from that origin, most likely they will taste a difference. So it is also the emotion is a thing which is there and which we should not underestimate. But I think in the end it should be about the real quality, and I think we should make that more clear, that we can this quality. And I think we should also make clear what is the sustainability, because in fact that is also what counts. What is more sustainable? And we have to look at all the aspects. We have to look at emission of nutrients, we have to look at let's say the use of nutrients, the emission of nutrients, the use of water, the waste. If you grow on rock wool, you get waste, so we need to take care of the circularity. At least here in the Netherlands, the rock wool is then collected and reused. And generally, if you compare a cultivation in soil versus a soilless culture, in a soilless culture, it is possible to recirculate, to reuse the drained water. It's not always done. In the Netherlands, I would say it's always done. Worldwide, it's not always done. But also that technology is possible. And if you reuse, so you give the plants water and nutrients, usually you supply more than they need. If it's in the soil, it's draining away. It's a loss, but it's also not good for the environment. If it's in a soilless culture, what you supply too much is collected and reused. So there's a lot of saving on the use of water and nutrients. I think that is good.
I totally agree, and also in Greece we have a lot of trouble with fertilizers being washed away, and then they go into lakes, and then you have eutrophication and fish die, everything.
It is, and I think in some areas in Spain where you have the large concentration of greenhouses, you have this eutrophication is a big issue, and I would say also here there's a lot of technology available to collect it and to reuse it. And we should do that. Yeah, in the Netherlands it is obliged in fact to do so, so that is already common practice here.
I'd like to talk a bit more about crop varieties. And perhaps I know from a previous course about the moneymaker tomato variety that was supposed to be a variety that produced a lot of yield, but the taste was really bad.
No, I would say the moneymaker is still used a lot in research. It's an old variety. It's not well producing because this is already very old, and why it is often used in research because the genetics is very well known. So it is often used if you want to know what genes are involved, then the moneymaker is used. I do not know in fact so good how its taste exactly is, but I would say it is not a commercial variety anymore. So I think it's not so good example on taste, but
Okay, so forget about that. But is there a possibility that when people start growing in hydroponics, they also use some varieties that had less taste than the ones they used previously in the soil, so that helped the myth?
Like that. Could be. I must also admit, also now in the Netherlands, you see that there are some varieties. Let's say there's one variety which is very popular, a lot grown, which I think is not tasting good. It gives an extremely high yield, and I find it a pity that growers use it. But if I talk to the growers and you look at what their economic, their financial situation is, they earn more than some other growers who have a more tasty fruit. It's not always like that. So, it is in fact what the market for the individual company does do now. So it is not always sufficiently paid the high quality. Still, my advice would be to the growers: don't use those varieties. Produce a few kilograms less, because I'm sure on the long run that's much more profitable for the growers. I'm not sure in other countries, but if in the Netherlands and in many other countries, you see now also this diversification, that when you go to the shop, there's not just one tomato, there is a choice.
Yeah.
And some have, but as a consumer, you do not always know which are the tasty ones and which are the non-tasty ones, and I think that should also be made more clear in the shop, so that you as a consumer really know, and then say, okay, if I want to go for the cheapest, then I have a little bit less tasty one, but then it's good. Then you know, okay, you have a choice.
Yeah.
If I go to the shop, I always look at what I buy. I buy only the tasty tomatoes.